Hello, everyone. Welcome to Abnormal Investigations. I hope everybody's doing all right tonight, or should I say today. I'm used to going live at night, and we're doing a little bit earlier today than what we normally do. Looks like we got Donna in here. Good to see you, Donna. Good to see you, Keith. Good to see you, Lisa. Good to see everybody in here. We're going to talk about something today I think y'all are going to find probably pretty interesting, pretty exciting. Um, I'm looking forward to getting into this one. I think it should be a pretty good live. I looked into some things and found it to be pretty interesting. Hello, Nancy. Good to see you. We got Nancy in here moderating tonight. And a lot of y'all will probably be familiar with a little bit of this story that we're going to talk about tonight. It's pretty well known, but I do think I was able to dig up some things that not everybody's probably heard. Hey, Keith, good to see you. Always good to see you, Keith. And we're going to talk about some things. Gary, good to see you. Good to see you. That a lot of people may not have put together or may not have thought about. And I think it's really interesting whenever you really start digging into some of these stories and you really start looking deeper than the encounter that's been shared everywhere. I think there's a whole lot more to be told. Hello, Gosh Hawk, I'm guessing is your name. And welcome. Glad you're here. But we're going to be looking at some of the, I guess, patterns, if you will. And we're going to kind of take a look at a creature that I believe spanned over 3 states, probably in 1971. And I would say probably still doing it today. Gosh Hawk, welcome. Glad to have you in chat with us today, and hope you subscribe, and welcome to the family. I think you'll really like it here. We got a lot of really nice people here. So, how many of you all? So, Andrea Roman. So, I don't know if she's spamming or what she's doing, but this is your warning, Andrea. Please don't do that again, or you will be removed. So, anyways, we're going to be talking about a pretty well-known, I guess, creature today. So let me move over here real quick. All right. So a lot of y'all might know this creature as a different name. So the Boggy Bottom Monster, also known as the Folk Monster or the Boggy Creek Monster. Now, this thing gets a lot of attention, and it's called different names. But I've noticed that even the different names, it shares one similarity that I think is really, really important to today's investigation breakdown, I guess is what you call it. Uh, it's really, really interesting to me how this thing was able to travel 3 states, cause as much damage as it done, and not only cause damage, but was able to send 3 people to the ER or to the hospital. So this one, I believe, was a very aggressive Sasquatch, is what I believe this was. I believe that for some reason it was a very aggressive Sasquatch, and it could have been a lot of different reasons we're going to discuss once we get into this. And I do have a new theory that may be coming up that we're going to talk about, and it may be something that I may have dealt with personally whenever I was dealing with this stuff at my granny's, and then living at our other houses and stuff, where this stuff would sometimes come up and bother us, that they call the hitchhiker effect. But there may be another reason that they're doing what they're doing, and there may be something that is actually leading them to us. So there's a good chance that a lot of you all out there may actually have what I believe could possibly now be a magnet that could possibly detect these creatures. So that should be very, very interesting. So, thank you. Gosh, I hope that you will enjoy it some more as we get into this today. It's going to be hard for me to see chat, guys, as I've got 2 screens pulled up, so I'm able to do this. I've done a lot of research notes, and I investigated it pretty well, so I think y'all are going to really enjoy this. And so every year, and I'm probably going to blow this name, I always do, but the Hanobi Bigfoot Festival and Conference takes place, where many Sasquatch lovers gather to tell tales of their own sightings and collected evidence in a place where sightings are deemed to occur almost daily. Now, in Oklahoma, there is sightings almost daily. One of the most well-known legends in these parts is the Siege of Hanobi, a tale of a family of deer hunters who were terrorized by the creature in 2000. So really not that long ago, guys, if you think about it, in the year 2000. I mean, yeah, this is, you know, a little while, but really not that long if you think about it. Uh, it was the middle of the winter, so the family kept their freshly slaughtered carcasses outside in the snow. The carcasses disappeared overnight, and the family cursed their rotten luck and assumed it was a wandering bear that had made off with their prize. So what they were doing is they were deer hunting and they were leaving their carcasses out in the snow to keep the carcasses cool, which was probably not a good idea because when you leave stuff out like that, you're going to gain the attention of something that's it's a predator, and it's going to be looking for food. So if you leave food out and it's readily available, then why not, right? I mean, if I was a predator and I was hungry and times were rough and hunting wasn't good, then I would probably take an easy snack too, right? I mean, that's just, I don't know, it would just make sense to me. So I believe that also, whenever you look at this, that this creature came up and was eating their carcasses, that is another argument for me as to why I believe that some of these are flesh and blood, the descendants of the Nephilim, animals that have been corrupted, or, as if you would, the Eliod. They are demonstrating that they have to have food in order to survive. If you're not a physical being, then there's no need for food. That would be one of my arguments toward we have a physical being and we have a supernatural being. If you're a supernatural being, there's going to be no need to be able to consume food for energy. Um, so that's just one of my arguments that there is a physical and a supernatural. And I think that's where you get you have the physical encounter, and then 25% of the time you will have a supernatural encounter with these, because I do believe, as Scott Carpenter also said, that the Sasquatch and others are descendants of the Nephilim. It just doesn't make sense for them not to be, biblically speaking. If somebody does not investigate biblically, then they may have a different opinion on as to what these are. But in my opinion, if you're a Christian and you really study biblical teachings, it's really the only thing that makes sense. So, just my opinion based off of the Melba Ketchum investigation, the DNA that supports that, and biblical teaching. So, moving on, the next night, while the family were tucked up in the bed, the creatures returned. And whenever the creatures returned, they found no more carcasses left for them to consume. All the carcasses now have been consumed. So they started trying to get inside of the family's house. So imagine this. You have creatures that's already came up. They've taken all these carcasses. They've taken your deer. They've stolen your meat. And they come back the next night. There's nothing there. So they try to come into your house. So one of the things that would lead me to believe is if they come back to try to get something and they cannot get in, get any food, and they're trying to come into your house, that could be a problem. That's one of the reasons why I say I don't think it's a good idea to gift. I know a lot of people do, and I'm not knocking anybody that does it. But as far as the way I investigate and the way I see it, and a lot of things I've looked at and investigated and the pattern and what has happened, if you gift and you stop gifting, they seem to become angry. And whenever they get angry, they become aggressive. And when they become aggressive, you have a 500 to 800 pound, super intelligent, pissed off creature that is hungry, expecting food, and you're the only thing there. So it now makes me wonder, are they wanting the humans now that there's no meat out there? Is that the reason they're trying to enter the home? Have they decided, okay, well, there ain't no food out here, but we know there's some food inside, right? Because they see the lights, they probably hear the people, hell, they probably smell you. So, I mean, they know you're in there. So They scratched at the windows and they tried to open the doors in their attempts to get in. Now, whenever I was younger, I was at my granny's, and I've told this story before, but we was in the front room, and we did not have an air conditioner. She had trees around the house that we used for cooling the house, and she had one of the windows open. It was in the bedroom, but through the bedroom you could still see into the front room. She had noticed something in the front room, or in the front room. She noticed something outside while she was sitting in the front room. And she was trying to play it calm. She was like, guys, don't look. Me and my cousin was there. She's like, I'm just going to walk over. I'm going to shut the window. I'm going to shut the blinds. You know, we always try to pretend like we didn't see it because we did not want to draw attention to it. And whenever she went over to the window and tried to shut the window, we both witnessed her struggling with the window. Whatever was outside had grabbed the window and was trying to raise it while she was trying to shut it. And it seemed like they struggled forever. Now, they may not have. It might have just been a few seconds. But that few seconds of watching her struggle with something on the outside that was trying to keep that window open, that was terrifying for us. We were young. We were just kids. And knowing that a monster could come into the house and watching your granny struggle with trying to shut the window in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, while you're staying with your granny. So that was pretty scary. I mean, it really, really, really bothered me. Uh, you know, they talk about how it went around and it tried to open the doors and it attempted to scratch on the windows and try to open their windows also. It almost makes me wonder, are they going around checking our windows and doors to see if we forget and if we make a mistake? You know, there was a time at my granny's, she had 8 kids and they were all asleep. She had the youngest kids sleeping with my granny. In the middle bedroom would be the oldest kids, and in the very far back bedroom was my uncle. My other uncle was gone and was in Vietnam at the time. So the youngest girls that was sleeping with my granny, she had woke up and she looked toward the doorway into the front room. And when she looked at the doorway going into the front room, she noticed that there was something standing in the doorway. And you're talking 8-foot ceiling. And she said it was tall. It had to duck to come under the doorway. So she was scared and she was young. And instead of waking my granny up or somebody up, what does she do? She covers up her head and hoping that it would just go away. So she covers up her head and she's laying there. And whatever this is, it's in the house. So she lays there for a little bit. And then, of course, her curiosity catches up with her. And she uncovers her head to see where it's at. When she uncovers her head to see where it's at, it's now standing beside the bed looking down at her. Of course, that really, really bothered her. It upset her. It scared her. I mean, imagine waking up during the middle of the night and you've got a monster looking down at you, right? That would be a terrible, terrible feeling. So after that had happened, she covered her head back up, hoping that it would leave. As it walked past the foot of the bed, as it was walking, it took its fingernails and it ran them across the bottom of her feet. I don't know if it done it to scare her or if it was just to let her know that it was there. But they will definitely come inside of your house. That wasn't the only time that it happened. That's just one example that I wanted to use in this investigation to show you all kind of that they check the windows and they check your doors and they try to see if they can catch you making a mistake to where you forget to lock something. And if you forget, it could be really, really bad. So the family realized that these creatures were not bears. They stood over 8 feet tall. They called out to each other in like a bird-like language. They possessed the manual dexterity to use the doorknobs. Now, they have always used whistles at my granny's house, and they use whistles even whenever I do investigations. Y'all have witnessed that while we've been out. Whistles seem to be one of their main ways of communication, which I also believe that they mimic other animals, people, and especially owls. They love to sound like an owl. That seems like an owl is just, I don't know, it's a noise that they like to use. I don't know if it's because owls are so common and people expect to hear them at night because it is a bird you'd hear at night. Maybe it's because they think, well, if I do a robin call at night, then they're going to know that robins usually don't call each other at night and they're going to catch on, right? So maybe that's why they choose the owl, because they are intelligent and an owl is a night creature. Sometimes I do believe that these creatures are not out just to hunt you down, but I believe that they are out to scare you. I believe that they love to scare you, and I believe they get a kick out of scaring you. I think that's just part of what they like to do. They're evil. I believe that they feed off of fear, and I think they get a kick out of watching people be afraid of them. Now, they also say night after night the creature would return, and it got to the part where this creature was actually damaging the cabin in their attempts to get in. One particular night, the hunter took action. The wife and the children were sent away while he and his friends waited on the porch with loaded shotguns for the creature to arrive. They also arrived at my granny's overnight at the same time and would start their prowling. As the creature approached, one of the men fired his gun, hitting the creature in the head. Now, the darkness was filled with the creature's howls of pain as it sought refuge in the trees, screams that echoed throughout the night. So he shot this thing in the head. It laid outside, and it suffered pretty much all night, screaming and hollering and howling. So, that's just another thing that I think is a good argument to say that some of these things are flesh and blood. If you're not flesh and blood, you get shot by a gun, it's not going to hurt you if you're supernatural, right? So knowing that it hurt it, I think, is another good argument to show that they are flesh and blood. They also have been observed eating, which I think is another good argument to show that they are physical beings. They were also using shotguns, and probably in their shotguns, they probably had birdshot, guys. Be truthful. They probably didn't even have double-aught buck or buckshot or anything. So imagine, if you're 30, 40 yards out there, you're a thick creature, heavy body mass. Somebody shoots you with, a number 7 or 7.5 or number 6 shot. It's probably not going to do anything but just burn the hell out of you. It's probably going to feel like, somebody caught your face on fire, your head on fire, and it's going to really aggravate the creature. But it is not going to be adequate enough to have enough penetration to be able to unalive whatever you're shooting at, especially something of that size. So that's another thing to consider in this story, is that you always have to take into account not just the weapon, but the round being used in the weapon, because that can make the difference between a whole lot of things. So in the morning, the hunters followed the trails of blood into the woods where a bed of the creature was found, along with what witnesses concluded was evidence of attempts of first aid, although the creature itself was long gone. Now, there you go again. You have blood, which again is another indicator of it is a physical being. It is a physical creature. If it bleeds, the blood would indicate to me a physical body. And another thing that I thought was pretty interesting was they found in this bed that they had found where the blood had led them to, that these creatures had attempted to use first aid. And what I mean by first aid is they found large clumps of grass and leaves that had been wadded together that looked like they were used to stop the bleeding. So I would say that there was more than one out there, or maybe it done it itself, but it was able to use the leaves and stuff around to be able to make a bandage to at least stop the bleeding, I think, so that it was able to escape that night. But that shows an intelligence, I think, a lot more advanced than any animal that we're used to dealing with. Whenever an animal is smart enough to stop to render itself first aid by leaves and making packs, it's pretty much making a pack to stop the bleeding and apply pressure and then leave before sunup. That's a pretty intelligent animal. I don't believe that is a normal animal that you're dealing with, because, I mean, you go hunting and you shoot an animal and you have to go track it. You don't never find the animal where it stopped and tried to patch itself up. That's just not normal. So the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization was called in, and while they concluded the creature was probably a deer, is what they called it, others remain convinced that there is something mysterious lurking around the Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas borders. Now let's look at some of the facts of the case, okay? Since they're wanting to call it a deer, and what I'm going to say too is a lot of these Bigfoot organizations, you got to remember they are federally funded. So I'm going to ask you all, can we trust everything that they're telling us if they're federally funded and we have speculations that the government is covering these up? Can we trust somebody that is federally funded to tell us the truth, or would they try to cover it up? And I think that is one of the main questions we have to ask ourselves is, can we trust them? And no, I don't think that we can trust federally funded organizations to tell us the truth. I think that they may, in fact, take these reports to be able to cover them up. And that might be the whole reason for these large groups. I do believe that there is people that are paid to give false information to cause despair in the community, to hide the truth. Because, guys, you got to look at it like this. In this community, it is a dark community just because of the subject matter at hand. You're not going to find a whole lot of true Christians in this community. Not knocking anybody for not being Christian. I'm just saying what I have seen since I've been in this community. You don't have a lot of true Christians. Now, you do have a lot of people that like to hide behind the word God and Jesus and, use that as their cover. But when it comes down to their fruits, that's the main thing that we're supposed to look at people at, is their fruits. And we have to be careful at what we support, right? Because if we support it and we're there, you're supporting it. So I think we have to be very careful, because when you deal in a dark subject, there's going to be more darkness than there's going to be light. Just my opinion. That's what I think. And yeah, slugs should do the trick every time. I agree. I don't think you would have any trouble if you were using slugs. I think that would be adequate. So some of the facts that we want to look at in this case, and these are facts, is what we're going to look at, is Bobby Ford was hospitalized after the folk monster encounter, this is the same encounter, Boggy Bottom Monster, the folk monster, okay? Now, he was treated for minor scratches, and he also had shock at a hospital and was later released. So what that tells me is something happened to him that was not normal. A person does not just go into shock for no reason. So he definitely ran into something that scared him. He was absolutely, I believe, terrified to go into shock by just seeing something. So, Ford reported being attacked by a hairy creature at his home. The creature was described as being around 7 feet tall with red eyes and heavy breathing. Now, the heavy breathing, that brings back even more things to me, because when I was at Granny's house, these things would breathe so heavy they almost sound like they was out of breath, like they had ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. Is it because they're tired, or is it just because of the lung capacity that they have because of how big they are? They just sound like they're breathing heavy when they're really moving a whole lot of air, because these things are so big. And I think that's probably more of the case. They're just moving a whole lot of air. Because you have to remember, we're talking about something that we speculate to be around 500 to 800 pounds. Something that's that big requires a lot of oxygen, which is going to require large lungs, right? So that would be my theory. The creature reached. Now, this is a part, guys, that reminded me of my granny also, and I'm glad this did not happen, because I don't know what I would have done. But The creature reached through the window, grabbed Miss Ford, and pulled her toward the window. Her family members held on to her to prevent the creature from pulling her out completely. Elizabeth Ford was the name of his mom. It had a hold of her. A long, hairy arm with large claws had reached through the bedroom window, grabbed Elizabeth Ford, and was attempting to pull her out the window while the family members held on to her, trying to keep it from pulling her out of the window. So it is absolutely attacking the mother inside the home. The window was open, but there was a screen on the window, and it stuck its hand through the screen, grabbed her, and was trying to pull her out the window. If it would have took her, I have no doubt that they would have found her unalived. I believe this would have been another one of those incidents where she would have been found a long, long ways away, either deceased or not found at all. She would have been just one of the missing 411s where it would have been, where did she go, right? Let's see here. Now, what I thought was interesting also is whenever they investigated, they of course, they did call the police, and the police came out. Hey, Sharon, good to see you. And whenever the police came out, they did investigate the scene. And whenever they investigated the scene, they found this is what was peculiar, and you get the pattern from this also, is there was 3-toed feet print around 14 inches long and 5 to 6 inches wide. Now, whenever you take that, this is what I did. They have a way that the zoo uses to calculate the weight of animals. And whenever you take the size of the footprint and you approximate it with 7 foot, and you do the 14 inches long by 5 to 6 inch, 5 to 6 inches wide, that gives you an approximate weight of this creature of being approximately 5 to 800 pounds. And that is the calculation that the zoo would use to calculate large bears. That would put this creature at approximately 5 to 800 pounds. Now, what I found really, really interesting in this also, and it may lead to a new theory of mine, I'm not real sure yet, besides the moon theory that I believe, that I also share with D.A. Roberts. Me and him both concur on that and believe that that is the most logical thing for their attacks and their activity. Some believe it could have been the dog the family had that could have attracted the creature, because they said that this creature showed up. Now, I want y'all to remember this, when the dog was started barking and then the creature showed up. So I want you to remember that as we go further into this, because I want to try to corroborate that with something for you and to see what you all think, to see if you think it really lines up. And, another thing that also made me believe that is when they started talking about the dog that was barking and how it may have caused it to come up. Did it come up because it heard the dog barking? Did it come up because the dog barking made it feel territorial, like how dogs are territorial or other animals are territorial? Is that what called it up there, because it hears this dog and then all of a sudden there's something in my area that I need to be concerned about? I'm a territorial animal. Or was it just the fact it heard the dog and it associated dogs with humans, and they're attracted to humans and interested in humans? Is that what caused it? I had a lot of questions on that, and I'm not real sure, and I will have to look further down that to see kind of where that leads me. Now, my mom and them did have a dog inside of their house. It was a small little dog, and this little dog would have been opposite of the stories that you've heard. I have witnessed both. This little dog that my mom and them had, it absolutely loved whatever came up to their house. It was pouring rain outside. I mean, thunder and lightning, and this little dog, Mom said, was begging and begging and begging to go outside. They'd open the door, let the dog outside. 30 to 45 minutes later, the little dog, well, presumably, the little dog scratches on the door. They open the door, they let the little dog in, and that little dog is as dry as a bone. So whatever was outside was taking care of their little dog whenever it would go outside. But then, as you all know, my Rottweiler ended up fighting whatever was down there, and it ended up unaliving my Rottweiler. So Was it the dogs that brought it up there? I don't know. Is it a good probability? I believe it is something worth looking into to see if dogs may be what lure them up there. Uh, I don't know right now. I think that we need to at least take it into consideration. We need to look into it and see if they're an attractant, or like what Gary just said, are the dogs just noticing it way before we do? It's something I think that needs to be investigated and looked at for sure. But either way, if your dog's barking, you probably should be on guard because something is not right in the area. They also reported smelling a strong odor in the area, something that smelled dead, which we hear that all the time. Now, the main sightings for this three-toed creature I thought was really, really interesting. Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, and listen to this, southern Kansas and Oklahoma line. It was all found along creeks. This thing followed the creeks. And if y'all, I don't know if y'all watched it. I don't know where I have it. I have the old VHS tape here somewhere of The Legend of Boggy Creek. And if you watch that, what do they say? It always follows the creeks. And I do believe that that is true. I really do. Thank you, Lisa Ann, for that gifted one abnormal investigation membership. Thank you so much for that. God bless you. You do so much. Uh, I think that they do follow the creeks, they follow the water, and that's going to have to be a whole nother show because I do believe they don't just follow the water for drinking water. I believe there's more to it, and through birth and the water, I believe it just goes. I think there's a lot more to it. So before we move off of that subject, excuse me, I'm still fighting this cold. Does anybody have any questions regarding the first part of this before we move on to the second part? Because what I'm going to try to attempt to do is I'm going to try to hook these two stories together. I told Sharon I was going to do this, and I think that I can put these two together, and I think I can come up for a pretty big argument that this creature was covering a four state span. I believe it was 4 states, not much of Kansas, more southern Kansas. I believe it was also the Noxie monster in Oklahoma. I'm not going to talk about that today. That would be a huge show that we would get into. But I do believe it is the same creature as the Noxie monster. I believe it's the same creature in 2000. It was spotted in one Oklahoma. I believe it was the same creature that was spotted on Highway 10, Crybaby Creek, so forth in Oklahoma, down through the Kiamichi Mountains, over into Arkansas, and then into Louisiana. And y'all will see why I think that here in just a second. So, did anybody have any questions before we jump over and start looking at the other? No questions. Nobody's raising their hand at all. Nancy, you don't even have a question? What's wrong with you today, Nancy? Oh, yeah, Emma. I believe they do follow those, and I believe that they do use those for cover when they're moving. Absolutely, I would believe that. Yeah, Gary, I had to buy that when it first came out. I've got it on VHS. I don't know where it's got. I've got a bunch of VHS movies, ton of VHS movies. Some of them that haven't even been opened. But yeah, I had to buy it whenever it first came out. Definitely had to buy it. Michelle's going to trip it for us, guys. That way we can go capture it. Okay, so if nobody has any questions, what we're going to do is I'm going to get me a drink of tea real quick. Gotta have a drink of tea. That was almost bad. I took a drink of that, and it was one of my nephews, and I thought it was my tea, and it was his root beer, and I'm allergic to root beer, so I had to hurry up and wash that out of my mouth because I am deathly allergic to root beer. So, yeah, don't want to drink that. So, we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about the woman in Oklahoma that we're going to connect this all to. So, one of those people is Jackie Marlowe, a resident of Caniatoga County, Oklahoma, who was hospitalized with a panic attack after sighting this creature. She recalls a tall creature with extremely long legs that was covered in reddish-brown hair that walked upright as a bipedal creature. Marlowe said the creature remained in her sight for approximately 3 full minutes before it snorted and ran back off into the woods. Whatever it was that was out there, it certainly gave her a fright. Now, Caney resident Jackie Marlowe, whose sighting frightened her so badly, she had to be taken away by ambulance. She was treated in the ER for shock, and an actual police report was made. Not enough to hurt me, Michelle. I should be fine. Now, she said, this is what she said. She said, you can laugh if you want to, but I saw what I saw, and that's exactly what I'd seen. Marlowe said of her July 18th ordeal, I don't know what it was, but it was a tall creature. I'm not going to tell you I saw Bigfoot, but it was a tall, huge thing that walked. It was not human, and it had a snout. So, what she seen, she believes was a Bigfoot, and she did say that it had a snout. Now, Nancy, I'll be fine. The reason it tipped me off is because when I took the drink, it was cold. It wasn't really the taste that I caught. It's whenever the peanuts that he had put in it, he had peanuts in it, and I was like, I didn't put peanuts in my tea because I felt something in it, and it was a peanut, and I was like, oh shit. Then I tasted the root beer, and I was like, yeah, we can't do this. So yeah, my little ones tried to get me. So some Bigfoot, as we know, have been said to have a snout. And a lot of the people that say that these Bigfoot have snouts is the Googway, right? And don't they say the Googway is supposed to have a snout? I believe that the Googway has been reported to have a snout. They call it the face eater. They say they're one of the more violent of the creatures. So at this point, I don't know if this was a Googway or if it was a Sasquatch, but I do believe it is the same animal that that we were dealing with in the folk Arkansas thing. And the reason being is Marlowe was 52. She was sitting on her porch at about 7:50 a.m. smoking a cigarette and gazing at the wooded area past the road on her 2 acres of land. Her home is near Clear Boggy Creek, which legend has it is the main creek for this sighting. So I thought it was pretty cool that her home in Caney, Oklahoma, is actually along the Caney River, which is where they had all these sightings for the folk Arkansas in 1971. We have now pushed this up to the year 2000. So I'm thinking it's the same animal, and y'all will see why I think that here in just a second. She stated, suddenly the dogs next door started barking up a storm. There's the dogs. Marlowe said, then out of the blue, Marlowe spotted the reddish-brown stranger. Stunned, she recalled standing up and hollering, oh my God. She said, I yelled it a couple of times because I couldn't believe what I was looking at. Her little dog huddled next to her, paralyzed with fear or curiosity, she said, or maybe even both. Now again, there's the dogs. Did the dogs barking cause it to come up there, or was it the dogs noticed it was on its way? They were trying to warn her. So, curiosity gets to Marlowe. She steps off of her porch to get a better look. There is that curiosity, right? It had very long legs and it had a head, she said. People asked, does it have hair? And I don't know. I just know that it was big, reddish brown, tall thing. And it scared the fire out of me, she said. Some who heard Marlowe's story suggested she saw a bear or a cow. The area has plenty of turkeys, hogs, bobcats, and assorted wild animals. Now, the weird thing is, she's 52 years old. Hey, Amanda, good to see you. I think she would know the difference between a cow, right? She's 52 years old. She's lived in the country all of her life. I would say that she knows the difference between a cow. Some who heard Marlowe's story suggested that she might have saw a bear. She again said she knows what she saw. She said it was no animal. It was not a cow. It had 2 legs, Marlowe stressed. It had the longest legs and it walked. It took 2 or 3 steps. And that's how I knew it was something I had never seen before. It had a long gait, hunched walk. It was brownish red. Marlowe estimated her encounter lasted approximately 3 minutes. That's a long time if you think about it. 3 minutes looking at a creature? That's a long time. That's long enough to know what you're looking at, right? Or I would think so. I think that if I could stare at something for 3 minutes, that I would know the difference between a creature and a cow. Now, hello, Devin. Marlowe immediately started calling folks, and the more she talked, the more excited she got. She finally ended up in the hospital for a panic attack. They had to call an ambulance for her. Police officers also arrived and rode the area on 4-wheelers in search of the creature. They found nothing, but later Marlowe said part of the chain link fence looked weird, so she called the police to come back. The police investigated the chain link fence, and they said no human hand could have bent the fence the way it was bent. So now, police officers also said that whenever they was looking in the area, they found a footprint that was 16 inches by 8 inches wide, 3-toed, and it was along the fence area, the ditch area. It went up to her porch, and then it disappeared off into the pasture, headed down Boggy Creek. They always follow the creek, guys. Atoka County Emergency Manager Director Tracy Walker recalled the ordeal and said that Marlowe was in fact treated for a panic attack at the emergency room, confirming that she did have a sighting that upset her very, very bad. Still, Marlowe isn't the first in recent weeks to see the creature. A few days before Marlowe's sighting, 2 teens riding 4-wheelers along Clear Boggy Creek also saw a similar monster lurking about. Morgan Whitley, 13, was the first to see the fleeing furry freak. Like Marlowe's description, she said it had reddish-brown hair with long legs and long arms, which corroborates Miss Marlowe's encounter. Everybody's calling the Bigfoot, and some people think it's a bear, but the kids know, they said, what they saw. After speaking with authorities from the Wildlife Division, she stated they wanted her to call it a bear. So the Wildlife Division started talking to the kids, convinced the kids to say it was a bear. By the time Morgan turned to her 12-year-old brother to point out the creature, it was gone. But Garrett Watley didn't believe his sister's sighting until he had saw it for himself. We heard more noises, so we both got scared and we started to leave. Garrett Watley said, we started pulling off where we were parked, and I looked off to the side of the road where there's a little hole, and I saw it sticking its head out, watching us. That's when he saw it. The siblings drove home as fast as they could, told their parents. The father did not believe them, but the mother did. A special team of biologists were called in. This was the statement that they left. Oklahoma and northern Texas are heavily wooded and prone to low-lying fog and swampland. It all fits the Bigfoot habitat known nationwide, from the densely wooded Washington state to places like Caney and Jefferson. Oklahoma, we believe, would be the #1 spot for Bigfoot cryptid activity. Our field investigation provides enough evidence that we feel confident to say there is definitely a creature in these woods of Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and Kansas that is not natural to these woods. That same creature was also spotted in Louisiana. It had 3 toes. So this creature had a long span of running quite a few states. Excuse me. But it just tells me that these things can travel, a lot of ground really, really fast. I think it was the same one, and was it 3-toed? Maybe not. It may not even be 3-toed, guys. It could have had its 2 toes in the center, could have been over on the big toe and then the little toe out, kind of like this. And when it walked, it looks 3 toes. It could be deformed, right? It may not have 3 toes. It could just be deformed. I don't know. It could have 3 toes. So not real sure, but I am pretty sure that that's probably what they saw. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, guys. Reverend, I thought they migrated, but I'm not sure that they all migrate, because at my granny's house, it didn't matter if it was spring, fall, winter, they were always there. So some of them may migrate, but I don't believe they all migrate, because I know that we had them year round. So they would have been there. They wouldn't have been migrating. So I'm not sure. Reverend, it is good to see you, though. Welcome back. Guerrilla Radios, good to saw you. Good to saw you. I was reading what you said. It was good to see you, and I'm glad that you saw a Yeti. Glad that you're okay. Oh, Northeast Russia. That's pretty cool. Send me an email, Guerrilla Radios. I'd love to hear your story. That is really cool. I would love to hear that. Gary Carpenter, good to see you, Mr. Werewolf. But guys, I believe it was the same one. I wanted to put that together today for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Tonight at 8 o'clock, we have a premiere coming out, in case you missed one of the lives we had on our other channel. But I wanted to put these together for you and see what y'all thought about them. I thought it was a really interesting investigation. It was fun to put them together. It's fun to look at it, and I believe that you can link that one creature to the 4 states. But that's what I think. Other than that, guys, that's all I got for you. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you enjoyed it, let me know after the live in the comments. I read and answer each comment. Let me know what you think. Is this the same creature, or do you think it was multiple creatures? And do you think Elizabeth would have been a missing person, or do you think she would have been found unalive? Thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate you guys. Always remember, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. And we'll see you on the next one. God bless. And we'll see you, not sure when, might be a surprise. We'll see you later, guys.